Another rather intensive day lies ahead of us today, and uh, we are going to have an address from the Youth Council. They organized a special training course ahead of the RIGF, and today they will be sharing their insights and the results of their discussions around internet governance. They will tell us about how they see the future of internet governance. And those of you who are going to stay with us till the very end, and we are going to have a carrot for you. Elena Zinovieva wrote books on internet governance. Elena will be coming here to participate in the closing ceremony. We published the book itself a year ago to accompany the 15th Jubilee year of RIGF, but things changed between the 15th and the 16th RIGF, and in our final session today we'll be discussing all these changes. As to the topics of today, the second day uh, has a very special tradition. The Virtuti Interneti Award presentation of the program committee, we established this tradition many years ago. If you look at the list of the award winners at our website, you will see there international experts in the field of internet governance and Russian experts as well. This year, we will be awarding the prize to a Russian expert, and after the ceremony is over, the laureate will deliver a traditional lecture. And while we are waiting for the moderator of our session, I'm sitting now in his place, let me introduce to you the panelists and the actual topic for the discussion at this panel. And the topic is sovereign clouds evolving from a marketing term to a contractual necessity. This is quite a broad topic. It's clear that this subject matter goes hand in hand with digital sovereignty. We talked about digital sovereignty yesterday at several sessions, and the evolution of geopolitical risks, of course, affects the technological landscape, and our speakers today will cover that theme to the best of their ability. Now, we are going to follow the alphabetic order. We have with us a senior lecturer of the Department of European Studies, St. Petersburg State University, Yuri Kolataev, Ilya Korolев, Strategy Director, Billion Cloud, Alexander Obukhov, CEO of Turbo Cloud, Denis Prokhorchik, I'm sorry, I tend to mispronounce your surname. Denis Prokhorchik is the Executive Director of REC Cloud. We have always known REG-RU as a registrar, and now you are becoming a hosting provider more. Yesterday we spoke about implementation of legislative changes that we expect to come into effect as of the 1st of September. We made big publications about Unity, about the trusted service for non-residents. It's something that we discussed yesterday, how domain name registration statistics will be affected by the new legislation. Non-residents will be able to do it, but it will be quite difficult for them to verify themselves using the government services portal. So for this audience and for these clients in Data.ru, we've got about 10%, and Data.ref, we've got about 8% of non-resident registrars. So we are going to offer a special service to them. And Anton Salov, independent expert member of the RCPA organizing committee. Okay, without further ado, waiting for Alexei. Alexei will come here shortly. I suggest that we open this panel discussion. Who wants to go first? In alphabetic order. Okay, very well. Yuri, let's start with you. Technology is interlinked with politics, so you will be responsible for the political component here. Okay, thank you, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here. When we spoke about sovereign clouds with colleagues, I'm not a technical expert. As you see from my credentials, I represent the academia, and what could I contribute to this discussion? But in fact, political studies have a role to play in this discussion. Sovereignty perhaps um, is an idea that has boiled up on many people, but very often it tends to become a problem. Whenever we speak about sovereignty, we see it as black and white. Either we have it or we don't. And it's as if every state decides the framework for its sovereignty. But since we are operating in digital space, it's very difficult to reproduce a state in the digital space and to define sovereignty in the digital context. In certain scenarios, that means grounding the internet. In other cases, we speak about personal data management. So there are many different modalities that are um, incorporated in the notion of digital sovereignty. Clouds, in the context of sovereignty, also has two dimensions. Clouds what can be sovereignitized? The algorithms and the infrastructure. The infrastructure and the functional component. Infrastructure is something that needs to be grounded. Usually, we have data of the government, of the users, of the citizens, and those this data must be stored somewhere locally, either to find a provider that meets the requirements set by the law, and this is practice that is spread around the world, or to ensure physical presence, like build a data center, equip it with racks, and say that, yeah, we are storing the data here locally on-prem. But this is a trivial viewpoint of sovereignty. As soon as it comes to data processing, that's where we hit difficulties, especially in the context of AI, when data is replicated, when there is algorithmic training, you can't control the process fully of when the data passes from one space into another. Many questions arise as to how we can interact with that workflow, how we can best understand it. So I think first we need to set the definition straight. What are we going to sovereignitize? Is it infrastructure or is it the algorithms? About 5 years ago, when the discussion around digital sovereignty opened, many people were saying, what sovereignty in the digital space? And now we are already at the stage of discussing digital, or rather sovereign clouds. The evolution happened quickly. Why is this happening like this? Is it due to politics, or there are other triggers that are at play here? Well, the world today is in the process of decentralization. It is defragmenting, and uh, there may be some agglomeration, accumulation happening at regional levels these days rather than at the global level. And sovereignty is the response to geopolitical risks. Many providers left Russia in 2022. I mean, Western providers, hence the risk of losing data. And actually, people start thinking about sovereignty much earlier than that. Russia is an advanced country in this respect, but there are other countries as well that do not have their own providers, but they do have requirements to localization, and everywhere these requirements differ. Take Russia. Russia has a union state with Belarus. So where does sovereignty lie? Should sovereignty cover Russia and Belarus both? Or sovereignty should be associated with national borders? In Europe, they're also thinking about that. They have their own regulation. They've got GDPR and other acts. And there are many discussions there right now that data centers should be located in the countries. Well, since we are here at the Russian IGF, before there were global and national fora, 2003, Geneva, 2005, Tunis, Tunisia. At that time, people couldn't come to an agreement what internet governance actually meant. So working definition was accepted at that point. People agreed to it, and since 2005, this definition did not improve in any way. This is a question. Okay, and now it's my pleasure to pass the floor to Alexei Rogov, the moderator of the session. Alexei is Director General of the Technical Center of Internet. Do apologize for being late. I got in traffic jam. Did he introduce everyone? He did. Oh, such a pity. Okay, let's start again. Let's start again. Forget everything that happened before I came here. Let's start again. Let me introduce the colleagues briefly because this is important to understand the context. Yuri Kolataev is candidate of political studies, senior lecturer and expert of the Valdai Club. Yuri actually has a lot of relevant experience of research in this field. Ilya Korolev, strategy director Beeline Cloud. Ilya has interesting experience. He is a pioneer of customer development methodology here in Russia. He has vast experience of uh, investment management. No, that's not you. Denis is direct cloud. And direct cloud today has 20,000 clients, and that's just right. Abubukhov, CEO of TurboCloud. Investment into cloud infrastructure. Did not make a mistake. The member of the what's this, in Russian? Russian something something organizing committee. Anton has plenty of experience in constructing and as an expert in cloud technologies. Today we've got a topic to discuss. Interesting topic to discuss. You may trend we are all aware of it. They continued would like specific action. Talk about it. You you already answered the Yuri. Oh, the question is that. Well, question is it happening global trend? It's a global trend. So it's sovereign when we say sovereign in the context of events. The timeline. Examples. Okay. network that we at the end of 2000s, early 2010s, to shape the space to provide evidence. Political science started, and then the technical committee in 2010s started speaking about seamless internet, a lot of hubs that communicate with each other what you apply because borders for the political lines are important. They are not understanding what the, an interesting Russia currency started focusing on sovereignty in the second 20s, and that was perceived that was Atlantic United States changed in 20 and the European Union is saying networks that did not affect clouds then, but Yuri very well finished. Other example. One our generate process will have to go back to the experience because GDPR produce other countries. Sometimes new we talk about practices and regulation, we usually think in terms of the clouds. Clouds exist to host data. Usually the interest process the data, all legal regulation. GDPR. Many countries, Brazil in 2020, regulation. And there is test Brazilian regulation. Um, Mutually complement. India is also for the same track. Tech governments trying of compliance, not somewhere. Hyperscalers, all service, everything is available. We very well, then in which cases these norms should come in effect. Hyperscalers depends on what you mean. Exist governments. I don't, if you then think geopolitically or in a situation You've got certified providers, sovereigns. Maybe speak about that more detail. Politically, for critical infrastructure. On the one hand, government or individual politicians, representatives of government, they start to prioritize it. That's the official term in political science. If it's a problem, it's a problem. Let's look at it. Let's set our working or and then may coming from the society. Extant on setting up an association. Is the understanding of this notion changing? Which notion? The cloud? Well, model, Evra, Sasha, for idea crystallizes in market and and trying to catch up. And countries start listening about stability is key to data must be kept safely as repeat mode and control. All countries follow their own path. Not all countries have their own providers. And in some countries, hyperscalers and of them when we say usually in a corporation. So one way or another, data that they collect and store uh, came to the United States. So basically, okay, the else and political customer. Local hardware. You can't manufacture hardware allows software in of domestic or developers. Encryption rates. Take a model. Encryption access the network. Legal questions are very important. To understand who is offering this service, Very well. Tom, thank you. The customers' requirements, they change 15 years. What is your experience? Cool. Cloud and custom, of course, monitor location and critical infrastructure. Yes, a definition, uh, critical infrastructure sets certain requirements. The software used to operate it. Domestic systems. So everything should be well. If it's critical to industry sizes critical infrastructure, then it should be on domestic. If not, then it's up to the customer. Is that choice, which provides, which lines they choose to have. My next question for Alexandra. You have many data centers around the country. Judging by what we read in the news, your main emphasis is on the high performance of your cloud, of your solution, data processing speed. And one of the recent trends is AI. Why does business need it? Well, if businesses are looking for sovereign clouds, why would businesses need your services? Okay, I'm not sure that people understood what you were trying to say. Urban Cloud, more than all the data centers, we are one of the youngest, and we at the same time are one of the oldest cloud providers in the market. We relaunched our cloud. We are now targeting the B2B segment. You were asking about that. I will get back to your question in a second, but we started back in 2012 in the in the bedrock of Rostelecom. I will get back to your question, but I want to respond to something that a speaker before me mentioned. Sovereign cloud as a notion emerged like 5 years ago. Well, indeed, just like Anton was saying, we started thinking about sovereignty of our cloud back in 2012, since the time we launched. And in 2012, we started developing our own cloud infrastructure management platform. It was the national cloud platform in those years. Now it's a different product. It evolved, and we made our first steps towards sovereignty when Law 152 started to apply to clouds, and this is when we saw our very first localizations. And there was also a question about marketing, whether it was a marketing tool. Well, when we started, it was an anti-marketing tool. Everyone tried to keep minimally necessary infrastructure in the country, and everyone focused on transboundary interactions with Google, Amazon, and other cloud providers.
Well, what happened 5 years ago? Yes, it's been 5 years since 2022. Now it's just the opposite. Everyone tries to everyone tries to quickly move all the components that used to be abroad to Russia. That was the request from the customer, and the cloud solution providers try to do their best to roll out these services in their cloud solutions. And that was my follow-up to the previous questions and comments by the previous panelists. Would you please repeat the question about, it was about the AI, if I'm not mistaken, but well, just to be brief, you are the youngest cloud provider, and you have the most advanced cloud. Well, actually, you were established earlier than we were. You have lots of data centers scattered all across the country. You have your own platform. You have your own orchestrator, if I'm not mistaken, and you put your bets on the geo distribution and dispersal. What else do you focus on? And well, for some reason, you reinvented the company. Why would your customers need a sovereign cloud? Well, the concept of the Turbo Cloud is to ensure maximum speed and flexibility for the B2B customers. Because, well, B2B is different from B2G. However, we preserve everything, everything beneficial that Rostelecom, our parent company, has. We have the greatest number of data centers. You asked lots of questions and addressed them to Anton. He talked at length about the sovereign clouds. But as what we mean by sovereignty is sovereign access to our clouds and cloud infrastructure. Being the largest internet provider, we are happy to work on providing sovereign access. Another thing I want to emphasize is that we have a sovereign composition of shareholders who are decision makers, which not every provider can afford to have. And it's important because if you have a sovereign shareholder on the board, the customer will not be sure that an unpopular decision is going to be made in the future. And by sovereign access, we mean the following. Let me go at a tangent and give you the following example. Let's say you have a gas pipeline that transits the territory of other countries. It might disappear all of a sudden. The same is true for the internet connectivity. And given the fact that we offer distribution services, that means that you will have sovereign and maximally protected access to your infrastructure. As for the geo distribution, we capitalize on the advantages of the parent company, and we saw that a number of customers want their infrastructure to be based in their federal districts. And thus we offer our own proposals because we have venues in 5 different federal districts. Well, I try to understand what a sovereign cloud is all about. It's not that I was torturing Anton on purpose, but before we mentioned we coined the term of sovereign data. Now we're talking about sovereign access, which is a totally different thing. Great. We also touched upon we coined another term, I would say, sovereign shareholder. So I guess there are multiple parts to the word sovereign. Well, Anton mentioned that things come to him as he speaks. We provide technical support and maintenance support across Russia. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock, and I'm going to force you to speed up from time to time. We have a very interesting discussion. Let's say you have a customer and his request is to have a data center in their specific federal district. What are other demands that you have to comply with? And where's the border between the theory and the practice? Well, I'm going to have to cover what's inside a sovereign cloud. I already mentioned that all of our staff are based in Russia, while in the past, as you are well aware, some of the staff might be based elsewhere. The only requirement was for them to speak Russian, and many staff were based in CIS member states. And now we also have sovereign certifiers and licensors who follow sovereign laws. In the past, we were supervised by foreign supervisors, and they could get data and information on every aspect of the company's operations. And now we get certificates and licenses from the Russian supervisors. Was it done for ideological reasons, or is there a practical sense in that? Well, like I said, a regulator gets access to the description of all of your operations and processes. In other words, supervisors and the regulators used to have access to all the paperwork, and now foreign supervisors cannot get access to this paperwork. Well, I never expected to get this answer. Anyway, let me press you on that. What's the practical stance? Let's say, well, a foreign body does not get access. Let's say no such NSA, no such agency or national security agency does not get access to your paperwork. But is there a practical stance in that? Are your guidelines and internal documents are really confidential for official use only? Well, that was one of the demands of the customer. Some customers keep asking us, what are the pros of that for me? Well, we can sell the fear, so to speak, because those customers who were based, whose infrastructure was based abroad, then all of a sudden could not get access to their own documents. I'm not going to name the customers, so I won't be able to share specific cases with you, but there were lots of them. I hope I answered your question. So in other words, you are saying that there are specific cases and specific examples that you are not able to share with us, but there were cases when customers would have to move to your cloud from those of foreign providers and foreign vendors. Well, you might guess the name of the company. My case is from the Russian Far East, and Russian Far Eastern companies selected foreign hyperscalers because the delay from the providers based in central Russia was unacceptable. So the Russian Far East is a great example of migrating to our clouds. It took us several weeks to open up a cloud, and one of the customers migrated lots of data into our cloud within a couple of days. Denise, how about your customers? Do they see any point? The first question is who are your customers? And the second question is, do they need a sovereign cloud? Well, being the youngest cloud, actually, I was sure that we were the youngest cloud when I accepted the invitation to attend this forum. We focus on small business and corporates. We have nothing to do with the public sector or critical infrastructure. As for the sovereign clouds demand, there is no such thing. There is no such legal term as a sovereign cloud. Customers come to the cloud providers with a specific business task, or they want to get a combination of technologies and services. And the customers want everything to comply with the minimal requirements stated in the Russian laws. They want business to operate, they want it to be legal, and they don't want to have any problems. No one ever asks for a sovereign cloud. There is no such legal term as a sovereign cloud. So all we're talking about is compliance with applicable Russian laws. What are specific minimal requirements of your customers? Can you share them with us? Much depends on a specific business, because if we're talking about some medium business with a legal department, or at least a lawyer responsible for compliance, they can come to us with specific requirements. We want to comply with federal law 152, we want this or that protection, and so on and so forth. As for the small businesses, oftentimes we have to act as mentors, because they come to us, they tell us what they want in terms of implementing a business task, and then we start talking to them and we tell them, Guys, you're gonna have to use a licensed perimeter here. This data can be migrated to a public cloud. There is no such thing as one size fits all. When we see a specific profile of a customer and when we see a business case, we try to help them in any way possible. There are mature customers who know what they want on the one hand, and on the other hand, there are lots of businesses who need our consultations. So, in other words, SMEs don't care about sovereignty. They want to complete a specific task. Uh, they want their infrastructure to be effective. Efficiency is the primary task for them. The time to market, the launch time of their business process or their projects is what they are concerned about. And they are concerned about compliance. These are the three basic needs of SMEs. I'm not talking about the public sector, and you don't work with the public companies. No, we don't, and we're not going there at least this year and the next year. I just wanted to add to that. We don't work in the SME sector, small and medium enterprises, but we have lots of large corporates. However, we do come across cases when lawyers or CFOs or IT chief information officers analyze the risks and they say, can you offer a national solution instead of a foreign solution? That's great. That's great. And such requests even come from those who are not included in the critical infrastructure list. Let me reiterate once again, we're discussing a sovereign cloud as a term. No one ever asks for sovereign cloud. Certain elements, of course, are being localized. Let's move on to, yeah. Do you use this term cloud? Sovereign per se is a term is something that we don't use. We discuss compliance. If a state and wants to comply with applicable Russia, and this is companies, and we try to comply with the new legal requirements, including 152. The legal frameworks are getting the top. Let me give you data storage in Russia is something then believe in the price and stand and requirements. Critical infrastructure. We have system is by the critical infrastructure list. Actually, our customer the national made hardware, and we offer to our customer standalone, big or less. So it's very interesting experience in a range of requirements. Well, I was going to merging markets that did not exist before. And we to with value propositions for our customers. Well, it's, how smooth the transition here, because in certain industries requirements uh, became tougher. Uh, come prior, and that they had to comply with the critical information infrastructure requirements. And for industries, for instance, process that was the journey. Well, years ago, I got surprised that to comply with critical infrastructure. Yeah, thank you. That was not the last question that I wanted to address to you. Do you ever notice any critical factors that were to moving to national infrastructure? Indeed, this for service requirement time. Gradual information security services and companies will pin more importance to the critical elements. They will be more critical about their decision makings when they set various options. And of course, they will keep this in mind. I wouldn't say that all of us, everyone did survive. People to make each other what to do looking forward, and some important. There is a split opinion. Stops work. Customers who face such challenges start looking for solutions. Right, let's move on to the batch of questions. Better understand the new requirements. Sovereign cloud. My first question goes to Denis. Let's let you operate in the SME. They to really understand anything about requirements, and you act as consultants. When customize solution to meet the needs of a specific. Well, we comply with federal law one, and on the other hand, we have to listen to the one initially a customer with applicable laws to them simple solutions. But of course, we can customize. It's a moving target. Everything is based on specific tasks. How far are you prepared to go online to satisfy the needs of your customers? Well, specific standalone customer doesn't make any sense because the customer, of course, we focus on the goals of our cloud, work with we get in this industry specifics have to be taken into account and have to this and the customiz- My next question goes to Ilya. Architecturally, what are the requirements to operating modes that the about customers? We have a proposal, different options, Federal Law 152 non-compliant with Federal Law 152 for the critical solution. In Unfortunately, the interconnection from the studio is interpretation is not possible. We're great experts. We can solution premise. Whenever is anyone. My next follows. According to this, on lots of projects. Doesn't Yandex comply with the law? No matter how surprising it might seem, but Yandex does not comply for the. I'm not ready to discuss specifics. In case we will launch Well, I'm not trying to advocate Yandex's solutions, but at one of the street attended by Yandex mentioned that for teaching Alisa AI is the Russian literature things from the theoretical gallery, poems. If you start up a platform with lots of available models, that's going to be a real breakthrough, not just for you, but for everyone in terms of the potential application of the emerging technologies. Ilya, my next question goes to you. How do you develop the infrastructure to simultaneously comply with the requirements to performance and reliability? Well, we primarily focus on large corporates, and we try to offer a tailor-made approach to them depending on their tasks. We can offer several clouds as an option. And well, Yandex is one of the key accounts for us, and we offer joint solutions. Have you ever had to refuse a customer? Oh, uh, right. How about replacement? Let's say a customer comes to you and wants some of the components to be replaced. Maybe it was not a direct value proposition. Any cases like that? And how often the customers consciously come to you with a specific request? I would say that the objective of the market players is to help every potential customer, even those who unconsciously do the first steps towards compliance with the regulators' rules. And we come up with the organizations.
We are trying to educate customers by raising the understanding of IT, by helping them become more mature. Very often, customers do not have DR solutions or backup systems, so it's not always that customers are capable of restoring the lost data from the point of disaster, let alone meet the requirements posed by the modern day legislation. Okay, so Denny says customers aside, mid-sized, large customers is just that they never felt the need. They were not mature in the past to build a DR solution. Now they have to meet the requirement of critical information infrastructure, and you have to help customers jump across the abyss, so to say, take several big strides forward when the customer is not very mature. And yet the customers are now uh, obliged to meet very high level requirements, very stringent requirements. Well, then the customers come to us to request a solution on a turnkey basis. Then we would engage partners. If you take law 150, infrastructure needs to comply with this law, but there's one thing to build the infrastructure. Another thing is the whole system needs to meet the provisions of this law. We've got partners who are capable of providing comprehensive solution and to certify the system as compliant to Law 152. It means that such a request is rather broad, and the more there is of the market, the more there are offerings, the better we'll be able to provide complex solutions to the customers by supplying not just the infrastructure, but also the services on top with a highly performing system. It's not like, well, I have some infrastructure, it kind of works, so we want to go beyond that. Well, several years ago, we decided to stop thinking about customers as immature. Some customers didn't take kindly if they heard this kind of assessment from us. And given the degree of digitalization of Russia, we are a world leader. And it means that overall, the customers are mature, but what we see we see that there is shortage of personnel. For instance, the customer now is subject to critical information infrastructure requirements. Now they need to have enough people manning the facility that hosts the infrastructure. These people can't no any longer work remotely. They need to be present there physically in that facility. So you keep asking basically the same question: why customers turn to sovereign clouds? What drives them there? And for some reason, no one until now has mentioned information security. So operators, cloud providers invested not just 1 billion, more billions into that. And when you calmly explain to the customers that if the customer doesn't spend enough, doesn't take any action in this area, then the business will be under threat, under risk. So on average, you have to invest 4 or 5 billion. I mean, without that, the cloud providers having invested a lot of money already, they need to have customers. They need to get a payback on their investment, and we assume some of the responsibility by providing cloud infrastructure that meets the CII requirements. And many IT directors like sharing responsibility. It's a fact. It's a fact. And one of the first customers we had was the IDMO University. And pretty soon after they became our customers, we attended together a conference. We were on the same panel. And they said, well, we never mentioned that, but it got easy on us when you assumed part of the liability for any breakdown. Okay, another question to Anton. Anton. How are regulatory demands changing the development and operations processes? Because the operational process and I mean, current CII requirements do change. They should change the operational processes, right? Well, yes, there is certain evolution in the requirements towards development. It's the whole flow started around the COVID-19 times. We had about 2 dozens of companies that were active in digitalization. Then some companies left after 2022, and the other companies grew. They started to reinvent themselves, and at the same time, the security requirements toughened. So basically, in the R&D conveyor, modern practices and safety requirements were embedded. Of- In the past, we used to have DevOps. Now we are turning to practices of DevSecOps. So the security component is naturally emerging, and there are now products and companies that design big platforms. Platform development is also complicated. Platform development maybe is in the line of sight of about like top 50 companies. For everybody else, it's less applicable, it's less efficient. We did a research showing that platform development becomes efficient if inside your company you have about 300 engineers. You can have these people on staff or out of staff, doesn't matter, but 300 and up. A lot of software is designed here by smaller companies, much smaller companies that do not have that many designers and engineers. And if they run into security issues, they will contact consultants that will help them build relevant processes, or they will talk to domestic hyperscalers such as Yandex or VK or Sber, those who engage actively with the community to disseminate the practices that they developed internally. They explain that if you do like that, you will get secure product. Step one, step two. Now, this is a good example. I mean, the platform development. I am not personally afraid of using the maturity term. You can use this term in the context of customers or processes. It's just that not everyone needs maturity. It's in every case. So if a company that doesn't need it uses platform development, the company will just incur unnecessary costs. Just because the company is not mature enough. It's not a suitable process for the level of maturity of that company. So going back to your example, we know that engineers, developers, they want to do things quickly. They want to have a global stack access. They want to launch products quickly and download stuff from GitHub, even if they are not aware of that. This is the aspiration, while the regulators or the security people want to make everything secure and sovereign to the max. So, well, how do we strike the balance? Well, the balance always depends on the job at hand. What is the objective of this or that software, for instance? Like many systems in Russia have to go through the stack procedure, and stack reviews the code. They review the dependencies. They review the register of the open source components. Yeah, exactly. Well, in this case, you can say you can live code or low code using platforms. You can assemble all of this together, but such a solution will never get certified by the stack. If you want the certification, whether you like it or not, you will have to comply. Yes, okay, thank you. We need to speed up a little bit. Yuri, are there any successful examples from international practice? Well, take us up to the side. I've been looking at the screen and I've been reading the marketing term and the contractual terms. It looks like, well, we understand that this is an RIGF, and that's why we focus mainly on Russian practices, but Russia is an exception to the rule, to the global practices in the context of sovereignization. We have already mentioned the geopolitical risks and everything. If you look at the world, the criteria was considered to be sovereign, depend on the requirements of the business and of the regulator. What I mean is, if we speak about international business, for an international business, sovereignty is not a priority. There is no such company that would say that we need a sovereign cloud if this company runs businesses in several jurisdictions, because then you will run into difficulties, compliance, transactional costs, etc. If you look at international practices, there is fragmentation of the sovereign spaces. Some people mean data-driven sovereignty when they say sovereignty. If the user can control their data, then this solution is sovereign. Why is that like that? Because that's the decision of the regulator. Or in another scenario, an audit. If a platform can be audited from outside, then this is a sovereign solution. Otherwise, the regulator will tell you you're not compliant here, here, and there. Then you have to redo your platforms. Go back to the title of this session. Sovereignty is a marketing tool for the government rather than for the business. It's not that the business is trying to sell the idea of sovereignty to its customers. It's the government's idea. Take the European Union and certain jurisdictions in Asia Pacific. Let's come, we'll build you. Let's go to you can sell sovereignty as a service. You can build special solution for that area. How do you assemble all this? Depends on your jurisdiction. If you want the data centers to be localized, okay, we'll do that. If you want to be compliant with data control regime, okay, we can do that. So it's never an easy solution. So, sovereignty depends on, in other countries, it depends on how you sell your solution to the government. And then there are businesses that stay within national borders, and then this business only needs to meet the national standards, and an international business that's just a boundary that has different pains. If you are a customer, not a supply, and you have to build multi-cloud solutions, it's complicated. So basically, you are saying that sovereignty is a marketing strategy of the state. Oh, thank you. I'm going to have several questions to the practitioners, to those who provide services. Let's start with Alexander. Alexander, name top 3 customers' requirements in the context of sovereignization. Hopefully, you will not speak about stability, reliability, performance. Well, it would be difficult to avoid those elements. Well, you really managed to do it. Well, I think that I wasn't very trivial when I was answering your question about sovereign stakeholders. Well, if this is a requirement, then it's a requirement. Okay, it doesn't touch upon sovereignty directly, but okay, expectations. How about not requirements, expectations? Let's hear from you top 3 expectations that customers have of a sovereign cloud. Import substitution of hardware and software to be in my location in the regions of my business's operations. I want to have clear access to these clouds. So access, okay, hardware, software, there are requirements, right? But geography matters for data localization, access to the infrastructure using their own network, and the third one, okay, something else comes to mind, something that makes us different. They want to be able to host their own equipment next to the cloud. In case of foreign hyperscalers, this is probably not possible. Ilya? Okay, non-trivial expectations of customers. I'd say that it's the expectation. They expect that a domestic data center, an infrastructure data center, would operate just like the, let's say, software from that was exported before. Like I'm talking about, basic principles. It's very difficult to compare sour with the soft and to explain to the customers that they will have to change architecture and their workflows. Now it's going to be different. It's a barrier. It's very difficult to switch people to a completely new solution. It requires a shift in mentality. They think it worked. Please replicate what worked. You don't need to replicate it. The principles are different. Okay, three. Okay, that's the first one. And then every year, if not every quarter, there is something new in the laws, in the regulation. I have already talked about the expansion of the uh, agents that are now subject to SORM, the technical means of operative search activity system. And then the customers are asking us, so why are we getting this on the specification? And we are telling them that, well, your company is on the register, you need to comply. And people are not aware of that. They didn't expect to find themselves on the list of those agents, of those um, companies that are subject to this provision of the law. And the realization dawns that they will have to rebuild everything. Anton? Well, as consultants, we deal with different providers, and recently we start hearing a new set of requirements like, can we can we have access to the dashboard via whitelists? And another one, since your dashboard operates via white lists. Will my service still run if white lists are activated? Well, yeah, sometimes you start investigating peak in customers' activity because for some reason some of your IP addresses were entered onto the white lists, and you were not aware of that as well. Well, I don't want to talk about whitelisting as part of this session, but thank you very much for bringing this up. Dennis, three non-trivial expectations from the clients. They're kind of trivial, but not very trivial, okay? In the context of import substitution, there is request for managed services. Customers want uh, setup and maintenance to be the responsibility of providers. So managed services. Secondly, time to market. Businesses need to know how to respond quickly to the changes of different kinds, legal, commercial, etc. And another thing, there is another interesting trend, comprehensive provision of services. We have a public cloud, we have a certified cloud, we have bare metal, and we have private clouds. So we tie all of this into one ecosystem, and depending on the customer's expectation, we can offer a complex solution. They don't need to build a distributed infrastructure across several providers, and they can select just one provider and develop comprehensively at this provider. So managed services, complexity, time to market. Well, I'm glad you didn't say that your customers have an expectation of not being compliant with the sovereignty requirements. Okay, going back to the term proper sovereign cloud, what does it mean for you? How do you interpret sovereign cloud? Dennis, let's start with you. Well, I'd say it's something that is the aim of our work. There is legislation, there is regulation that applies to different departments or industries. When all of this is based on a shared ideology, when all of this becomes integrated, this is when I will know what sovereign cloud is. Well, sovereignty. Okay, from the technological perspective, export potential of technology matters to become independent only when you can export your technology outside of the country. And in Russia, like Nginx, Miro, and other technologies take 20, 30, 40% of Russian markets, and the technologies have Russian. What do you? We are lucky to operate in Russia. Russia enables sovereign clouds. Like, not every country can afford a sovereign cloud. Not every country has its own data centers or cloud providers. Many countries don't have enough skilled personnel to implement the idea into practice. Well, for me, sovereign cloud is like, there's a public, private, and there's still sovereign. The more we use the word, and as the world goes through a decomposition, better understand what sovereign cloud is. Thank you. Well, to me, a sovereign cloud is a reliable one. It safeguards data, it secures services and access to the services. Thank you. Well, I will answer both your previous question and this one. What are the non-trivial criteria of sovereign clouds from international practice? It's something I can quote. I think it's to the customers, to the players, for them that can't afford a completely sovereign cloud. For them, the criterion would be a less extraterritorial control. It becomes an indicator. Actually, for the majority of countries, probably this is the only criterion. Or becoming a sovereign via control over the data by the user, but sovereignty is a notion associated with the states rather than with individuals, and also encryption. There are models that operate data. Data itself are not transparent to you because they are encrypted at an earlier stage, and it's a way to ensure sovereign control over data. But that's about data. To go back to your question, what is sovereign clouds? The way I understand it, it's a range, a spectrum, and we decide on where the borders lie. Ours, we decide on the boundaries ourselves. It's a spectrum. Base, operational, and extra. It's another level of sovereignty that we are not yet including into our interpretation. So it's a palette. It's a picture in Russia several other spheres that apply, perhaps some from the point of view of the political community, one way or another. That's the wisdom, that's the will of the leaders, our reality. May I offer a contribution important that data centers, apart from to send that to individual organizations would not. Well, I say structure. Yes, yes. Session can talk. Question: where the data begins. Simply, last war. No, I'll raise it. Who certainly your discussion. I said.
Отрасли с этой точки зрения. Вот такие вещи. То есть хотел...
Those things. It would be good if the regulators listen to the industrial experts. We have any excellent experts, and together what to avoid. I would like things to be decided without our contributions, and monopolization can always. I would wish for sovereignty and forms if we have the balance. Well, I wish for the balance for heartbeat down country development. Alexander?
Well, I would say dialogue, dedicating to staying, well, for our bands and various blocks. I just want the authorities to share with us the reasons for that. Public authorities should ensure our ability to comply with, import substitution with regards to the hardware, data storage. We want the capacity with you. Yeah. I like to see more explanations of the reasons for the requirements enforced by laws. With explanations for laws into force. And in certain segments, it would make sense to approve the requirements that companies willing to support in various tenders not time. Thank you. Well, my wish list would be not to well, to coin the terms, because we are still unclear. Well, the entire session was about the fact that we don't have a coined term of sovereign clouds. It's great to share an experience, but it's bad for a regulator not to understand what the term is all about. Oftentimes they misuse it. So if we are using the sovereign cloud, we need to standardize the term. We need to coin the term. Otherwise, we just this marketing strategy and the much. I'd like to thank all the right now we are unclear in cloud means in terms of legislation. We're not clear on the different way, though we have to explain to the customers what it stands for, and sometimes we need to brief them on how it's going to work in practice. Nevertheless, I believe that the discussion was good, and I'm positive that the regulators will seize this opportunity and take into account our views. It makes sense for a regulator to communicate with the market, with the experts, and I hope that all of you will take part in developing the requirements to be met by sovereign clouds. Thank you so much.